Anime, comics, movies, and games. So come on and let's get it. Talk Time Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the journal of my life that covers all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah, joined by none other than Boris, Roberto Aguilar of Sunday Night's Main Event on TSN Radio from Toronto and Extended Podcast. He is here to join me today. We're having a very special episode because we are going to review Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and this was so big, I was like, I can't do this alone. I got to have somebody I could talk to. I know the perfect person I could talk to. He has the voice quality. He has the know-how. He is a fan of it all. So what better person? So, Boris, what's going on, my man?
Man, like we were talking right before we started recording, it's been a whirlwind week, right? Like, it's just been crazy. But honestly, I'm not trying to sell the episode or anything, but I got to say that the highlight of my week and a perfect way to end a crazy week, both personally and professionally, is being able to watch Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
I mean, we're going to get deep down to it. This whole episode is just dedicated to just talking about that. I mean, it was going to be just this, but I would be remiss if we just take a moment to talk about the untimely passing of one of the greatest voices to ever perform as the Batman, and that is Kevin Conroy. This came out of nowhere. Boris, you actually were the one that actually put me down with it. Like, you were the first to do it, and then it was just shock because I'm like, where did this come from? And I'm going to tell you the full circle, the 6 degrees of Black Panther with this whole thing, too. So you told me this. I'm looking. It's everywhere. It's, TMZ then put it on there. So, like, it's official at this point. It's unfortunate. He passed away in the age of 66. And unfortunately, once again, due to cancer, on the very week that we're watching Black Panther Wakanda Forever, as they pay homage in memory of Chadwick Boseman, who also died of colon cancer. What the hell, and why can't we end this disease? It's just insane. I say the same thing for Alzheimer's too, by the way, but it's just, it's taking so many people. And it's unfortunate. We lost a huge legend in comics and in just acting and animation as well, man. Talk about your thoughts on his passing, Boris.
I was shocked, just like, everyone else, like, that heard. And, like, I'm sure, like, when I sent you the messages, right, I sent it to a select few, right? Because these were let's be straight up here, right? Like, I do a geek podcast as well, pop culture podcast, the It's Canon podcast. And, I've made friends throughout the industry, right? A lot of friends who have worked with Kevin Conroy personally on Batman projects. So I was able to befriend these people on Facebook, like their actual legitimate Facebook profiles. And that's where I saw it first. There was some very close people within the inner circle. And I'm like, oh, this can't be true. This can't be true. And I only sent it to kind of my inner circle. And dude, I was blown away. Like, I was really hoping that this was fake. It was one of those things, just because, similar and eerie in similarity with Chadwick Boseman just kind of came out of nowhere, right? Yeah. And similarly, kind of, they kind of held this disease and their fight in absolute privacy. And to me, that's the biggest part, just because it just seems like it came out of nowhere.
That's significant, and
it was just crazy. And then I honestly took a little bit of time to reflect, just because he played such a huge part in my childhood, right? Like, I'm 37. When Batman the Animated Series came out in 92, I was a child.
And it was a game changer.
Yeah, it was a game changer. And it was such, now after how many Batmans and how many attempts at Batman cartoons and all this and that, and a lot of them were super popular. Some of them were to this day I hold near and dear to my heart, like the Batman itself. But nothing is going to beat the Batman the Animated Series. That is iconic in so many ways, from the music to the animation style, which we still see in DCU movies, right?
Yeah.
such an iconic character, such an iconic voice. You know, when you think Batman, you think Michael Keaton, you think Kevin Conroy. Those are, for me, the two people that you think of.
And respectfully, because there's going to be this ongoing debate, but, you know, he's not, for those who don't understand, he's not the genesis of Batman because there was somebody before him, but Adam West will always be cherished for his significant reasons. But what differentiates him to Kevin Conroy and why he may have been the earliest, but he doesn't mean it was the best. What Kevin Conroy did with his powerful performance as Batman and Bruce Wayne is redefine the way we look at Batman.
Yes. His
portrayal is definitive to what we see today in all the Batman comics, to the animations, to the video games. You know, the Arkham series is down by far is his, Injustice, you know, all of those. It's like, and his performance can be argued is the reason why we have this stupid debate about how Batman does and destroys and beats everybody and everything because, you know, the old saying in the geek world, because Batman, that's why.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it. He defined so much of what we know of Batman today. Like, you know, people can say Frank Miller created the Batman we see today in terms of this dark persona, right? But in terms of actor portraying Batman and the difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne, Kevin Conroy was the one who really took it up to the next level. I'm going to give Michael Keaton all the credit because he's the one who kind of defined that character
through Tim Burton's vision. Absolutely.
But through Tim Burton's vision, Kevin Conroy took that to a 10.
He really took it far. He took it way farther because Michael Keaton never, I mean, aside from Batman Returns, we never got to see, you know, him really do a portrayal. And again, we always give Michael Keaton respect, but when it comes to just Batman in general, when we talk about the definitive, you know, persona of Batman, it goes to Kevin Conroy without a doubt. Now, for those who haven't seen it, don't know, that are listening and watching this, I actually had the opportunity in 2018 to, you know, be a part of a, you know, courtesy of Repop, course, be a part of this one of my first workings in, you know, with Repop back then. And, you know, I had the opportunity to attend a press event with Kevin Conroy on Batman Day here in Philadelphia for Keystone Comic Con. And it's a half hour. It's a must watch. Since I uploaded, it's been like shared, quite a bit and watched quite a bit, but he tells a lot of stories. We get to ask, you know, it's a media scrum, you know, Q&A type of thing. And just hear him talk about, you know, his involvement, the things that we don't know, that we're not privy to, you know, as people who are actors and everything. We talk about that, and a really awesome story that I'm sure he's mentioned like once or twice, you know, in the zeitgeist, but he talks about it thoroughly about him during 9/11. And it's a really awesome story that I highly recommend people go out of their way to check out. You can check it out on Facebook at Xavier Josiah. You can check it out in ACMG Facebook group. You could go on TalkTimeLive.com. You can watch it there as well. It's a must watch and a really great way to understand why he is so beloved, why he's so legendary as well. It was just an incredible opportunity. You know, and it's times like this where I talked with Boris, you know, before we started the show, but it's like, it's reasons and times like this why we put so much work into what we do, and because we love it that much, and to get these opportunities to, you know, talk to people in the world of our favorite fandoms. You know, when you get to the points like this, it's unforgettable, you know? Yep.
It's a remarkable thing. It really is, to your point. Like, there's really nothing else that we can say.
Yeah. I mean, so to that, you know, rest in peace and rest in power to the one and only legendary Kevin Conroy. Thoughts, hearts, and prayers to all of his friends, family, and fans out there. You know, it may not be another one for quite a while. And I know Kevin, you know, Troy Baker's out there, but, you know, Troy Baker's just like the closest thing to what we have to Kevin Conroy, but it's without that certain element. That Shakespearean element that he brought in so much. So, you know, thank you for the time. Thank you for the memories. And I will be watching him consistently on HBO Max from this point on and playing Arkham like crazy. So, with that said, it's time for the main event, people. Get my Mark Henry on real quick. And we got to talk about, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. A major follow-up to the previous one, which, really put Chadwick Boseman on the front. In this unfortunate time, we have to pay homage to him. This was more to me like a memorial service. I don't know how it was in your theater, but we'll talk about that as well, Boris. But like, it was the tone in the theater and the vibe was so different. It felt like it was still being celebrated, but because of the significance of the film, it was very, very silent. And until certain parts, and then in the end, by the end, we were like literally cheering like Ibambe, and everybody was going like Ibambe in the theater. Like it was real because we all felt it. There was a guy right next to me, a white gentleman, right next to me, and I'm watching him. And there were parts that like I was kind of tripping and dripping, and he was dripping profusely, and I was like, "Yo, I'm trying to man up, but this is not a moment to man up. We just got to let it go." And there were some parts in there. We'll talk about all that, but the love that Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, and Chadwick Boseman has made for people of all colors, facets, whatever, and their love for Black Panther was amazing. Like when I had to give him my napkins because I felt it. I'm like, yeah, he got us. He got us, man. He's like, dude was like, yeah, he did. That was our man up moment right there. Yep. But we're going to go talk about the overall thoughts of the movie. We're going to talk about certain aspects of the movie, certain characters and everything. We're going to run down a lot of things. I want to just go right to the overall thoughts of this movie without going into further detail of what we're going to talk about in this episode. But this movie was full of very deep and emotional moments from start to finish, while like not allowing it to overshadow the action and entertaining moments for me. I think director Ryan Coogler and screenplay writer Robert Cole had the unenviable task to not only having to rewrite the script of the follow-up due to the untimely passing of Chadwick Boseman, but I think they did a successful job at this. I think they did an amazing, unbelievable job at this, all things considered. They managed to pay their respects to Chadwick, introduce new characters, not only that wasn't not originally meant to appear on this movie, and also, made everybody who debated whether the role of T'Challa should be recasted or not. Everybody. I think they made everybody happy in one swoop. What was your thoughts on it?
I think you summed it up really well when you said, I think they made everyone happy in one swoop. Like they were honestly met with one of the most difficult tasks, let's be honest, in terms of us, us watching everything MCU. We don't talk too much about what we watch, right? I think we really focus, our friendship is really focused on wrestling. But, I think the MCU is, because of the Disney Plus expansion and the Disney Plus plan and content, their quality, and this isn't my personal thought, it's just the overall arching reality of the situation, right?
Yeah.
They've been faced with a lot of backlash. They've been faced with up and down TV shows. They've been faced with so much. So, and after various receptions to the movies, from Doctor Strange and the latest Thor movie, I think that a lot of attention was being brought back into Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like Black Panther is the big make or break moment of the MCU right now.
I would agree. Yeah.
You try. Imagine that pressure, man. Imagine the pressure of knowing that your movie is going to either, really expand the MCU, make it move forward, all power, no questions asked, just power through, or if we're going to have to rethink things. And just I know that they didn't know this as they were writing the script, but as the marketing campaigns were starting, as reshoots were happening, as editing was happening, this was must have been very obvious to them. I guess short story long is that they took the impossible task and they ran with it, and I think that they did a marvelous job, pun 100% intended, of not only honoring Chadwick Boseman, not only respecting Chadwick Boseman and like him as a human being and his contributions to the MCU, because I think it's understated how important Black Panther was.
And can we also add
MCU.
what he? Can we also add what he did outside of the camera?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go with this. Like, it's honoring the human being, right? It's honoring everything that he's done. And I feel like this movie was a reflection of that in certain scenes, which we can get to a little later, right? Like, I feel like this was just a huge, just like you said, a memorial to Chadwick Boseman covered with an MCU movie in the most respectful and amazing way humanly possible, right? Like, it tugged on my heartstrings. And for something to tug on my heartstrings that much, as much as this movie did in certain parts, it takes a lot, right? Just from an artistic point of view, just from a personal point of view, just from a pure raw entertainment point of view, this movie had it all. This movie was really well done. This movie was just, I'm not saying it's the best thing that the MCU has ever done, but in today's times, with everything that we're facing in, real life, and the small little facets of entertainment, of forgetting everything around us that we have, this is perfect.
Yeah. The somber silence of the intro and the opening logo had the audience very emotional in the theater. When it went silent, it was just like, you could feel it's like whoosh, because it just like after that first scene, and then the logo came up and you saw the, all the Chadwick Boseman tribute logo came up, and it was just, it went complete dark and silent for a few seconds intentionally. And it was just like, that was so deep. I thought they did it was very well done. There's no way they could have made this any better or worse, in my opinion. So the question I want to ask for you, because this was, the change around was the big focus of the antagonist of this film, somebody that we wanted to see for quite some time coming to the MCU. It did, and in a different way. And they did a fresh coat of paint with this character. What were your thoughts on Namor in the land of Talokan? Because, for those who don't realize, Namor is the first mutant, which they kind of mention on there gracefully, which also leads to other things. This is like the third or fourth time they mention mutant in all different formats too, by the way. Yep. They also had to change around the Atlantis storyline. For those who don't read the comic books, in the actual Marvel comic universe, Namor, the Submariner, lived in Atlantis, but due to the fact that DC beat them to it with Aquaman, they just said, let's just recreate the whole thing. And they did so in a dope way by, using Aztec, cultural aspects to it. And I thought it was pretty good, but elaborate on that a little bit more, what you thought of it.
I thought it was so well done, and I think you said, right, DC beat them to it with the whole Atlantis thing, so Marvel had to rethink everything in terms of how they were going to introduce Namor. And I think that using the whole Aztec and the whole Latin American native aspect of it was such a perfect inclusion of the Latin world, right? I think that it really spoke to me, being of Latin American descent, right? Mm-hmm. How rare is it that a Latin American character and is so focused with such a rich history and such a deep backstory, right? And we're not drug dealers. We're not shooting people up, right? Like, that's the thing that people. But
you're a force to be reckoned with, just like we are. Which that's actually real life.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? Like, for me, and there's just so many. There's so many parallels between real life, right, and the Latin culture and the Black culture, right?
Dude, the Latin culture was always to me the cousin culture. That's what I always consider. Like, I've been around other environments and cultures all through my life. I've had affairs in a community of sorts. It's just. I love the community. We got a lot in common. So it's like, it's one thing we've never been in, in this type of battle, but when we figure it out, it's like, we're all in the same game.
And that's exactly what this movie was all about. Right. And I just love parallels, but going back to specifically the whole handling of Namor's new origin story, I thought that it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was well thought of for an MCU project. It's very rare that you get a complete rewrite in the MCU. It's so well done. I personally love this, right? And like, not to offend anyone listening or watching, but I know that there are people who aren't going to like this for the simple fact that it's so different. God forbid it's different from the comics. I'm sorry. But if I wanted to watch an exact recreation of the comics, I don't know what I would watch, right? It's all right to have certain changes, and this is one of them that was a required change, and it was so well done, and I really liked it. I think that, especially in the Black Panther franchise within the MCU, what a perfect way to have another kind of unseen culture get the spotlight. And to me, that's what spoke out to this. It was the fact that it was the Aztecs and it was the land culture, right? And it was really, like, again, I don't want to not to get too spoilery and to get ahead of ourselves, but to see the colonizers and the Spanish actually being portrayed as villains and bad people. Loved it.
Now, I will admit, because I'm so familiar with Namor and his character, just his character, not the ethnicity part. The ethnicity aspect was really cool that they did for it. I just loved it. Like, okay, we're getting another introduction of a world the same way that we in the Black community got introduced to Wakanda. We're entering a whole nother world. Talokan had the same intro feeling. It should have the same intro feeling for, the Latino culture, as it would for us when we first seen Wakanda. And it was the same thing. Even got, Talokan even has their own, salute gestures as well, which is awesome. But as a character, I was just focused on the character of Namor, because in the comics, Namor is a bit like, he's in the gray. He's kind of like, he's not a good guy at times. He works with good guys, but he's also worked with bad guys too. He's been a bad guy many times too. He's kind of, before Vegeta, Namor was that dude.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? The arrogant, pompous type of, persona. Like, he can be a good guy at times, but he will change up in a minute if something doesn't go his way. So I was looking for that, and it took me a while to get used to him. But as the movie progressed, I started recognizing him as the Namor, and his demeanor came from, and it changed immediately. It's still not the Submariner I've grown up to, but it's very fitting for the MCU, and I love it. I absolutely enjoyed it. And let me say real quick, for those who always complain about that, because one, is this just another reason for them to complain? Two, I challenge anybody who understands the art of branding and understanding that the U in the MCU is universe, meaning that it's not the 616, is not the ultimate universe. It is its own within the multiverse. So they technically they did say it is the 616 before anybody says anything, but it's generally its own universe that they can take liberties to do. Hence why, DC does it too with with their version of the multiverse. The whole multiverse thing gives people an ability to take liberties with the core aspect. So without taking out the core, you got the core and the nucleus of what it is, but you're just slowly just changing it around to give it some, different, perspective, to give it a different feel and look to change the storyline around, to change story aspects around with it, but still remaining the core. That's the trick. It's still remaining the core element. Does this feel like Tony Stark? Does this feel like Peter Parker? Does this feel like, T'Challa? And so forth and so on. It has to really feel that caters to the hardcore and appeal to the casuals as well. So, that's my usual thing with that. You gotta embrace it, because it's happened all over movies in Hollywood forever that's been adapted to any book. Hell, have anybody read The Godfather? Not the same as the book. I can name a bunch. Yes, it is. I can name a book. I did a book report on that back then. I can name a bunch of different, aspects. Hell, in the actual MCU, you're supposed to wear Kamoya beads on the left. I wear it on the right because this is my universe. So there.
There you go.
But yeah, no. Like I said, as the movie went on, I really liked the Namor character, and by the end, I was like, okay, this is becoming the Namor I am known to love. I want him to be a part of the Fantastic Four so bad.
I was literally about to go into that, right? The one aspect of the Namor character that I'm glad they didn't touch Like, he's larger than life, right?
Yeah.
The Submariner. And I feel like by the end of the movie, we kind of saw that, right? We saw this larger than life, controlling, overarching character. But I like the fact that they're kind of doing this slow burn on his character, because I'm very happy that they didn't go all in on the Namor, being this celebrity. Right?
Yes.
And you saw the seeds planted that they will be able to tell that story as this entire storyline progresses between, the whole isolation of Wakanda and the rest of the world, right? Because that this is going to be now a major point in the MCU, but you can see where Namor is going to become this larger-than-life celebrity, bigger than everyone, and I do feel like you are going to see some more integration with the Fantastic Four as they get introduced. As there are more mutants introduced in the MCU, I can see Namor kind of being the mutants' kind of like figure, the celebrity figure, because he's the first one, right? And the fact that they went out of their way to say how he was a mutant and how his origin story from the 1500s, almost, the 16th century, I feel like they're really building those seeds to make him that larger-than-life celebrity that we know as Namor the Submariner, right? So I think that was really well done, and I think that what they really captured in this movie was just how his intentions at the end of the day, right now, are to his people, and that determines how he treats everyone else, whether he's good or whether he's bad. Because we even saw in this movie itself, he went back and forth being a face and heel, good guy and a bad guy. Like, how many times? He's the Big Show of the MCU right now.
Damn, that much? Only wrestling fans will get this.
Exactly. Meaning that he's going to be a villain. He's going to be hero. He's going to be an anti-hero.
That is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about best or favorite or worst characters. And to be honest, I just put worst just for the record, but there were really no bad characters in here at all. None. No. So far be it for me to even, let's just throw that out of the way. I'll mention it first, but the really big standout of this movie because everybody that was in the movie so far, aside from the people under the sea, were like already established. But Dominic Thorne as Riri Williams, as a fan of Ironheart, I thought that this actress did a tremendous job. I thought she just really was so. I've never seen. I think I did see her in like one or two films prior to. But other than that, she really came out and stood out here because Riri is one of those new characters in the MCU that is like Miles Morales, that has really, she's out there, but she hasn't got her due. And I think this was her big time to shine. And they needed an actor who can really portray this and really bring that character out as the person who will be initially the new Tony Stark of the universe right now. And I thought she did a really good job. As a person, I've read the books. Actually, funny thing, because I actually have the Invincible Iron Man book in my office right now. It's a limited edition #1 signed by Ariel Johnson. You don't know who that is, but in our she used to run a comic book shop, and it was known as the first comic book shop owned by a Black female in the East Coast. And it was so huge that Marvel celebrated that by drawing her into the first issue of the comic with Riri on there. And it's a very special limited edition issue now. And it's unfortunately because the shop is no longer there. Unfortunately, because COVID really kind of put a hit on it. But that story, if you haven't read Ironheart, go out of your way and read it. It's an awesome story. And how she is leading to becoming the new Iron Man, and how Tony Stark, is helping her to do that. The now defunct but android version, Tony Stark's her Jarvis now in the book. So, and she went on to actually join the kind of the Young Avengers team called the Champions later on down the line, and she's an awesome story. And not only that, I won't get into deep on her, but I'll skip on her for now. But she was one of the biggest standouts. Angela Bassett as Cream Ramunda. This is why you needed Angela Bassett in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is why we wanted her to be Storm a long time ago. People forgot, like, you remember that whole situation when she declined to be in the X-Men and we got Halle Berry, unfortunately. And then you look at her performance as Cream Ramunda, and it was just like, this is why. I'm so glad that she got so much airtime in this time around, and she rolled with it. She slammed it. Letitia Wright, she had to take the commanding role this time. I thought she really stepped up, and she was the standout on the last movie. I think she really stepped it up. She had to, and she did it really well. And she sacrificed a lot to do it this time around, and it was well worth it. Winston Duke as M'Baku, he was the comedy relief of the deal, but he did it with great fashion. I love Winston Duke. Loved him in Us as well. He was dope in that movie too. But M'Baku, he really shined in here. And Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o, of course, was kind of she was the spirit of the actual movie for me. So, who was standing out for you?
Honestly, you named them all. For me, honestly, Angela Bassett just picked it up and went with it. It was amazing. Everything that,
it's powerful, man.
It was so powerful, especially that scene in the UN, right?
Exactly my point.
That scene, just so powerful in so many ways. And going back, without giving anything really away, the parallels between the real world and the MCU and this entertainment world. Yeah. Just mixing it within itself, it just makes you go, huh? So much so that I went with a childhood friend of mine, a high school friend of mine, and she watches MCU. She's a geek-ish, right? But she's not really into it the way that you and I are. So when we left the theater, she was just like, "This is why I hate the world," and then she essentially recalled that scene in the UN, and it's like, well, that's the beauty of these movies, right? Yeah. That they're so smart that they do these parallels, and it really does make you think, right? It's like, I always think of and call back to that scene in the Star Wars prequels when Natalie Portman essentially says, right, like, calling, that how power hungry everyone is, right? And that's the beauty of this. And Angela Bassett in that scene was just so powerful, and throughout the entire movie and her arc in the movie, right? And like with Okoye, that scene too was that was a really riveting and powerful scene too. You could feel her pain in that scene. It's just fantastic. Who else? Dominic Thorne. Oh, just so good as Riri Williams. I had issues with the Riri portrayal and just how, and this is something that the MCU's kind of been doing. I saw this in Thor with Natalie Portman, like the latest one, God and Thunder, where it was kind of like everyone seems to know how to fight, but as Riri Williams and Ironheart, fantastic job. It was exactly what you needed. You tell me a non-white, a person of color, with so much pizzazz, right, at such a young age, right? And that's what I really enjoyed about that character, and it was so well done. Again, funny when needed to be funny, and I just really enjoyed that a lot. Honestly, even Teno Huerta's Namor, I thought he just killed it, considering that he's literally portraying a new Namor, right? Yeah. He couldn't read the comics and say, this is how I'm going to do it, because his character, I don't want to say it's different, but it's different enough that he couldn't portray that Namor in this movie.
And still celebrate the heritage.
Yes, and that's exactly it. I think he did a great job of respecting the character of Namor. Can you imagine? It's Namor, one of the most popular. He's older than Marvel, right?
Yeah, he really is. Before it was the I forgot the name of the comic, the name of the comic company before Marvel. It's in the top of my head too.
It is, yeah.
Don't do it, because we'll just go all day.
Exactly. Timely Comics.
Timely, yes, correct. Yeah. Because Stan Lee was actually not doing anything of what he was pretty much like a gopher at that point.
Exactly. So yeah, Tenoch Huerta did a great job with Namor. I thought that it was such a powerful performance when it needed to be powerful. I thought that, he really you felt like you wanted to kneel before him and do whatever he said, right? Like, and that's
like you didn't want to get, like, he seems like he'll be nice to you, but if you get under his skin.
Which is, funny enough, it's a very Latin quality.
Like, if you're from around the way, you kind of know how to, you got to use, critical thinking, and you got to use, like, you just got to read the room.
Yeah, exactly. And one person that we didn't call out that I thought was great in this movie was Martin Freeman. I thought he did a really good job. Again, maybe we can talk about this in a little bit in terms of that story arc. But I think Martin Freeman did a great job in this movie of, again, being that person in the middle and trying to play various parts to various people and just trying to be the good person. And I thought he did a great job. But I still can't take Martin Freeman serious with an American accent. He's still
especially when he's on an FX show.
Yeah, exactly. To me, he's still 2004 Martin Freeman in The Office,
No, awesome. I agree. I would give him a honorable mention, a Okoye honorable mention as well. Like, and believe it or not, Trevor Noah,
yes,
who played. Many don't realize Trevor Noah was in the movie. He was the AI, and he was in the first one too. But they gave him more of a speaking role this time around because we now know it's Trevor Noah, and it's Trevor Noah. Yep. And what better way to celebrate the man who's leaving the Daily Show, which is pissing me off every time. He's so close to the end of his term. What a deal.
Live?
Yes.
So
last year here in Philadelphia, and my wife and I have been to quite a few comedy shows of like Tommy Davidson, him, Martin Lawrence, if you will, Michael Blackson and all this stuff, but and Chris Rock just like a month ago or so. And these guys are geniuses. Wanda Sykes as well. Geniuses, all of them. And I highly recommend people to go out and see these guys, great date night, go-tos for that. Well worth the money indeed. But, it was great to hear him on there, and I thought that was just them paying homage to him too in somewhat way, because he got way more lines than he ever did on the first one.
Yeah. It was great. It was great to see that. So many great performances in this movie, right? Like when you sent me the questions or the outline, and I'm like, "Ooh, worst! Oh, this is going to be a hard one. This is honestly going to be a hard one." That
was just happenstance. That was like we're just balling up and throwing it away. If it just happened to be, because I gave that to you before the movie. We both got to see the movie. We don't know what to walk into, so
yeah. Honestly, you can tell that everyone, for lack of a better term, did this for Chadwick, and I'm not saying that. If what happened to Chadwick, this movie wouldn't have been as impactful and good as it was. But I just feel like everyone upped their performance, knowing that this was going to be for him, a memorial to him, a thank you to him, not only as Black Panther, not only as T'Challa, but as Chadwick Boseman, the human being, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone just took it up a notch to celebrate that, and that was so obvious in this movie, right? And I'm not going to say the name, but there is one major cameo, one major surprise in this movie, and I thought that one scene was so powerful in so many different ways as well. I want that actor needs to be called out as well.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. Oh, we're segueing right into that right now.
Yes.
No worries, because we're definitely going to talk about our favorite moments of this movie. So I would assume that anybody that's listening or watching this right now has already seen this. And if you have not, this will be a spoiler episode. So play at your own risk in here, because there's no way in hell we're going to talk about favorite moments and not talk about things. But let's talk about favorite moments, man. The opening death scene, we got to talk about that in emphasis, because I thought it was brilliant and very... I'll come up with the word for it, but it was brilliant and brave. I'll just say that they implied why he died. Yes. And if you really look at that first scene, you saw Shuri, trying to configure the DNA and also trying to reconfigure the heart shape that a certain someone burned out in the first movie to save T'Challa for whatever was ailing him. It was implied that he was suffering from some type of disease, that he was suffering from something. It was implied that it was a reflection of Chadwick in that same way without even saying it.
Yep.
I thought that was deep. It was to do as an artist of any kind, but in particular, like art, if you're doing like canvas art, illustration or whatever like that, one of the things that they teach you in art school or college or whatever like that is impliedness. Impliedness meaning like, you know, there's negative space here, but there's an impliedness to create the asymmetrical type of balance that you would have for a certain piece that you have. So it brings balance when you see it. This can be said the same thing for, you know, screenplay writing and whatnot. There's a certain impliedness is where even though you don't see it, you know what it was based on. You know what the meaning is. You know what is there. And there was this impliedness of her trying to save her brother from an ailment. They never spoke anything about what was the matter with T'Challa. They never spent anything. You just, because they relied on us, the audience, to know exactly what we know of the situation. They brought that reality into it without saying it. It was kind of remind me of Eddie Guerrero. We're going to get to wrestling here as a reference. Eddie Guerrero, when he went into that ring one time, didn't say a word and the crowd was pissed. He was a heel at the time and he did not need to say a word to get booed. Yep. And he walked out. And even more, there was impliedness that whatever he was going to say, regardless, he was going to get booed. He said nothing and it got even bigger boo. This is kind of the impliedness here, where it's like, you know what she was trying to do. You know what was going on. We didn't know how, because you look at the trailer, you're thinking, oh, are they going to flood? He's going to die from the flood? Because if you read the X-Men versus Avengers comics or Avengers versus X-Men comics, this is where kind of this storyline is based around, the rivalry between T'Challa and Namor. Because during that saga, Namor, you could say he was under the influence of the Phoenix Force or whatever like that. But part of it is his own instinct. He decided to flood Wakanda, killing millions of people in the continent. And T'Challa swore down that he was going to get revenge on this dude. And they kind of played to that based, you know, loosely based on that storyline and kind of just made it into their own weaving here. And, you know, so we didn't get that part, but here we are. And she was working on it, and unfortunately it was too late. And that's when, you know, Queen Ramonda came in, and it was just like, and that's when it went silent. I thought that was so brilliantly done. And anybody that came in not trying to cry right there, it was no.
Yeah. Oh, that alone could give Angela Bassett awards, right? Like just her walking down somberly down the stairs. You know, you knew what was up. And that's, again, the impliedness of us knowing exactly what went on without them saying it.
Yeah.
So powerful, so amazing, so well done, right? And like, you know, that's just from a personal artistic point of view. But like, let's look at this from the MCU point of view now, right? Mm-hmm. Let's be geeks for a second, because that's what we are at the core of it all. This now opens up a lot of possibilities, right? I feel like they're gonna leave this as a one-off. Let me start by saying that, but I agree. But they could take this a little further in the sense, and they just completely leave T'Challa's death out of this, but they could make reference in the sense of, you know, the snap did something to people's DNA, did something to people who were gone for those 5 years. Something's happened to them. They're not all the same when they came back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whether it be the radiation exposure or something, right? I feel like they've now at least opened the door for the possibility of these further explanations, right? But
which they did mention the blip just vaguely.
Yes,
in here they did mention it.
Yep, exactly.
The kid mentioned it.
Yep. So I feel like that you know that door, that seed's there. The door is open, but I feel like if they were to leave this as just that, right? It's just amazing. But going back to that art, you know, light versus art, the fact that no one knew of T'Challa's illness, right? It was so reflective in the final scene, and for me, the final scene was the mid-credit scene, and it was just like a beautiful. It just went full circle.
Yeah. So, and we'll definitely talk about that. So, like, I'm separating that from all the other moments that we have there, and let's talk about it. Yeah. The return of Killmonger.
Yes, the return of Killmonger. Michael B. Jordan.
I don't know why I didn't think to. I had no idea. I'm like, he's already done. How would he even remotely come back? I don't know if you remember. Like, you ever watch New Jack City, the movie?
Yeah.
There was a time back in the day. This was so stupid, and I find it hilarious even every time I say it. That people wanted to have a New Jack City 2, but. And people were joking, talking about it was like the return of Nino Brown or the ghost of Nino Brown or something like that. It was hilarious because, you could argue like Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger is the modern day Nino Brown.
Oh, 100%.
And it was such a riveting portrayal and performance that like you wanted to see this dude come back. And thank goodness we did in the What If, series. We got a chance to see him be him in such a dope way in the animated series. But I'm thinking like everything that was going on and everything that was happening, far be it for me to think that Michael B. Jordan will make his return appearance. And the way that they did it was, again, brilliant by bringing him into the astral world. Because yes, he was king. Yeah. People forget once you're king, you're in. He did take the herb, the heart-shaped herb and everything. So like he had all the credentials to be in there. And that's what happened with Suri, took hers and it came up. Amazing scene. And I'll let you go ahead with the rest of that. Your thoughts on that. Yeah,
no, it was such another powerful scene where, after Shuri takes, the new heart, and takes that and goes into the astral plane. It was the fact that it was Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. It was like, what is going on here? But then you remember, right? Like, and this is the beauty of this movie, where what we're seeing isn't necessarily how a lot of these characters are feeling, and they make reference to it throughout the movie, right? Like, Shuri's pissed off at the world. She hates the world, right? For so
she's
many
that
reasons.
pissed. She's conjured him up.
Yeah, that to me, that was the most powerful part. That she was so angry at the world. She lost her brother. She lost a bunch of people at this point.
Her father.
Right? Her father, her brother, her mother at this point, right? Like she hates everyone at this point. So it only made sense that it would be like the most tumultuous king humanly possible, and that was Killmonger. And what's so powerful about that scene is that of all people to give her the the strength, the backing, the potential to be Black Panther, of all people, it was Killmonger, right? But again, it just goes to show you how black and not everything is black and white in the MCU, right? There's just so many shades of gray, and I feel like that was the overarching theme here, where to me, someone might be a good guy, but to other people, that good guy might be a bad guy, right? You see it in Namor. You see it in the entire portrayal of the powers that be in the global world, right? You see that even, you see that so much in this movie, and I thought that was so well done, right? Like even in Valentina Allegra, you see that in her. You don't know whether she's good or bad. And
again, another big surprise there too. I was not expecting Julia Louis-Dreyfus to come back. I love that she just pops up out of nowhere, man. It's just awesome.
It was so well done too, but like there was so much gray in this movie, and I really enjoyed that. But going back to that Killmonger scene, it was so powerful and so well done, and it was kind of a perfect end to his character. Let him be a good guy in the end, and that's what we got with Michael B. Jordan there and his cameo, right? It was like a perfect way to write the character off, and who better, right? And if
you really think about it, even his character, as ruthless and cutthroat as he was, there was a reason for it.
Yes,
that within every Marvel villain, there's always a nucleus as to why they're doing it. And when you go down to the very beginning and the genesis of why he became who he was and what he did, it was, and it's a kid wondering why, not understanding things, but just dealing with it the way he only knows how to, and the only way he can. So he was in his own mind, in a Magneto-like mind he had, was doing it for the purpose of the culture.
Yep.
Just wasn't the best way to go about it. He almost overthrew a lot of people. So
Exactly.
Phenomenal scene right there. And then, for me, the battle in the sea between Talakanians, I guess we could call them until they say otherwise, versus the Wakandans was awesome, which led to the appearance of the full Ironheart suit, because I did not realize we were going to get the full Ironheart suit in this movie. I thought we were just getting the Mark I suit that she had recently, and they were going to lead into the her series with the suit. But no, I love that suit. I loved everything about it. I love the Okoye and the other ones new suits as well. Yes. That was awesome. Like, even Okoye got a little bit of upgrade, even though she didn't like it. She kind of assimilated into it, if you will. But that Ironheart suit was so awesome. It was beautifully done. What were your thoughts on that one?
I don't want to say I was surprised, but there was a bit of a surprise, just like you, right? I thought that was going to be the mid-credit scene, that she was going to be given that upgrade.
Lead into her own series, right?
Yeah, but the fact that they just threw it in there, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
It was smart of them to do that. Give her the airtime now, so that, hey, I remember this character when her eventual MCU Disney Plus series comes out, right? So I thought that was really smart. I thought that the suit looked good. It looked
beautiful.
So good. It was so well
very
done.
Accurate to the actual comic book suit too, especially with the face and everything. And I loved how it opened up as well. Yep.
Exactly. Like, even the way that the gun works, right? Like, it's kind of like her arm is kind of attached to the suit, and it's just really well done. It looked really good. And just that entire fight, right? Like, it wasn't even a long scene, because it was smart how it wasn't a long scene, because at the end of the day, everyone kind of makes peace, and everyone is fighting for their own purpose. Going back to the many themes of this movie, right? Everyone does things for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't know what their reasons are just yet. So I kind of that entire fight scene was cool, and I believe this was like the first full-on water world fight scene that we had in the MCU.
Yes, it was.
So that was well done. That was really cool, and it was smart how they how it was all done. Right, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So other than that, what were your favorite moments?
Oh, it was just honestly the way that we talked about the intro, we talked about Killmonger's scene, we talked about the fight scene. Some other amazing moments in this movie were, the introduction of Namor and his crew and everyone. I thought that was really well done.
You talking about at the beginning when they were taking over the ship?
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. I thought that you kind of got a good gist of what we're getting, from their siren song, which was so well done.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like, and the fact that the siren song even worked against in Wakanda, right? Like that was awesome. It just
had people going off a cliff. I'm like, no.
Yeah. It was so cool. So all of that, I thought the introduction, to Namor was really cool, like in Wakanda. And again, it just goes to show you how powerful he is, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. There was just, this movie was full of good scenes, and that to me was just so reflective of it. Whereas I'm trying to think through the movie right now, it's like, honestly, this movie was really well done, and it's hard to pick out standout scenes. And I think that the mid-credit scene as well was so impactful and so great and so well done, and again went full circle with honoring
T'Challa and Chadwick.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that right now, because the post-credit scene, I don't think anybody expected. And let's talk about that. Like, we see it. Well, first of all, it ends with Shuri heading to Haiti to meet with Nakia, and she, because they promised to hang once everything is over, she does introduction. She doesn't join the ceremony at Wakanda, where M'Baku is like taking, decided he wants to, like, I'll use the hang time to fight somebody. She goes to Haiti with Nakia, I guess, to make amends of everything. But if you remember before, and I hate this part. I hated this part. It's not the worst scene, but it's like, I can't believe this happened to Shuri when Namor, pretty much killed Queen Ramonda. Before she was trying to, before she died, she was trying to tell Shuri the secret. The secret led all the way to the post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, and as they're hating, she's trying to make amends as she's burning, and everything stopped. She's burning the white dress, I guess, that she wore in the first one, which I think that was. They went into credits, and we heard Rihanna's song, and it was like, oh, I gotta hear this song again, so I'm about to get emotional. And then they go to the mid-credit scene, and Nakia is walking with this kid, and everybody in my theater was like, oh, hell no. Because I don't think people realize Nakia kept calling Queen Ramonda Queen Mother.
Yep.
And right there, I was like, oh, did they get married after the whole thing? Hint, hint. Okay. So when she walked up with this kid, people in the theater was like, no. Yep. So she walked up, she introduced the kid to Shuri. And here's a fun fact reference from the first movie. If you remember in the first movie when Killmonger came in to the throne and wanted to, claim the throne to T'Challa, they were speaking in their dialect. It was like, identify yourself and who are you and all this stuff. And he recognized himself as the cousin of T'Chaka and everything. They did the same exact thing in this one scene with the kid, and the kid spoke in the language, and he was like, I heard you could keep secrets. She was like, yes, I guess you could say that. And she asked him, who are you? And then he revealed that he was T'Challa, father to King T'Challa, Prince T'Challa. And people didn't get excited. People cried in the theater because we knew that this was their way of saying, like, we're never going to replace the T'Challa, King T'Challa, but we are going to have a new T'Challa coming soon. And I'm getting kind of emotional just talking about that right now because that scene was just so dope. And that was when I looked to the right of me and the dude was like, he was kind of wiping his tears off and all the stuff. And it was just like, man, that was so brilliant. Yep. Absolutely brilliant. And, man, what a hell of a movie. What was your thoughts on that, man?
That was honestly, someone was cutting onions in that theater. Like, I'll tell you that. It was so silent.
Sonya's in here right now too.
It was so silent in the theater. Like the opening scene, like you said, right after the funeral procession, and you saw the Marvel sign, and it was the Chadwick Boseman memorial one that they used earlier in the MCU, and then that final scene, absolute silence, like. It's like a dome of silence. It's like as if we were out in space.
And it wasn't like the movie was boring silence. It was like, I'm taking this all in. This is so much to take in.
That's exactly what it was. It was so powerful. It leads to the future of the MCU. And, I think that if Chadwick Boseman just decided to step away from Black Panther, I think they would have recast him. But it was the fact that he passed away and he was such a influence as a human being to so many people. And going back to, I think a lot of people don't realize just how important Black Panther was, right? In pop culture, in Black culture,
absolutely.
in person of color culture. Let me tell you, even for me as a Latino, I loved seeing the importance put on Black Panther because it says, okay, we have a chance. And you know what our chance was? Wakanda Forever with Namor and everyone, right? Like, it was just so, it gave us that opportunity. So I think that if Chadwick Boseman decided to just step away, they would have replaced him. But just because of the profound impact that he left on everyone, this was the classiest and best way to handle it. And it also says,
well said,
there is a possibility for more coming down the road.
Well said. Well said. I couldn't agree more. They did so much justice to this movie, to the soundtrack too, because the soundtrack celebrates all things Black and Latino, culture and everything. The movie also celebrated that. And the crazy part about this, Boris, is this wasn't their intent. This was not going to be the original premise of the movie. I've read that, Ryan Coogler, it was just going to be focused on 5 years past. There was no mention of Namor or anything. So through this, they were able to not only just make a whole new premise, but make, representation for another cultural aspect that was much needed. And not only that, to see us come together like that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's what I love most about it, right? And you know what? We might be praising this movie a little more, but it impacts us. It impacts you as a people of color. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people need to realize is just like, this means a lot to us, right? Like you said, even the soundtrack, right? When they were going through Talocan for the first time, and you had, the traditional Spanish music, but you had, with the various dialects.
Yeah.
So well done. So well done. And so powerful.
All they had to do was just bring in Miles Morales, and people would explode it.
Oh. I was honestly half expecting him at some point in the movie, just because it was like,
he would be the one. Wait, he would be the one to stop the war because he's like a little bit of A, a little bit of B. So
yeah, exactly. It's just like, so well done.
He just comes out of nowhere like, I'm telling you guys, we can work together. Trust me.
Yep, loved it.
So here's a hard question to do. Maybe. In your opinion, did this supersede the first?
Ooh, okay. So I would have to say no for the simple fact of this. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for the first movie, mm-hmm. and as obvious as this sounds, I will say it and then I'll explain myself. If it wasn't for the first movie, we would not have gotten this movie. Right. Clearly obvious. It's a sequel. But what I mean by that is the like I mentioned a few times already, that pop culture and just cultural impact that Black Panther had in the world. Yeah. If it wasn't for the success and just the meaningful attachment that a lot of people had to that movie, we would not have gotten what we got here in the second movie. As much as I loved this movie in regards to it being the return of the MCU, right? After a few movies, this was back to the MCU core, which is what I loved.
We got a couple base hits, and here's the home run.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly. I would say a hit by pitch and a base hit, maybe.
It's still good, but we want that home run.
We got on base, but this one was the home run, in my opinion. Right? As good as this one was, and as impactful as it was, me being a Latino and finally seeing that representation in this movie. Yeah, it was great, but I would have to say that the first one the cultural impact. The cultural impact surpasses the quality of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm not even going to comment on that because I'm going to concur with you on everything that you just said. Is no other way to put it. Like the first one really did stamp an approval on the world and what they thought about representation. Black representation as a major superhero. And Marvel needs to commend itself. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby needs to, be commended for that. Two white guys in the 60s created this character during a time when there was segregation, when there was a whole bunch of, you think we got it now. Back then it was even worse. And for them to bravely do that says a lot, which is why I have Stan Lee and me in my office right now proudly. Yep. I will also say I got to go back to the favorite moments too. The fight scene between Namor and Letitia Wright and Shuri was awesome too, and the new suit was dope. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. The new suit design, probably the best since the original Black Panther design. I would say I thought it was awesome, and the fact that she made it so she could be her and be the Black Panther as well, because she had the same gauntlet, shooters that she had from the first movie. So I thought it was really dope there. But yeah, man, you said enough about that. I couldn't said it better on that note. As far as ranking, where does this movie rank among the long 11-year list of Marvel movies, Marvel Studios movies, not TV shows, but just movies?
I would have to put this in the top 10. I don't know where in the top 10,
Yeah,
but it would for sure be in the top 10 for me. You know, we're looking at 15 years next year of movies worth, right? 15 years.
And it's about to get into more too. I mean, the multiverse saga is officially now. This is the last one of the. This is the last of the phase 4. We're about to move into phase 5 and 6 right now, so it's about to get really deep.
Exactly. So I would say top 10 for sure, but closer to top 5. I would have to put this closer to top 5, but between 5 and 10. I don't know. Again, can't name them off. One day we'll do a list, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. It's now. I mean, but the beauty of it is that we have to. Okay, we have the opportunity to list so many awesome Marvel movies dating back to what, 2007,
2008.
Think about that, man. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, think about that. That's unprecedented, man. Like, people can say what they want. The Scorsese's, the Ghost of Roger Ebert, if you will, probably. If he was, I'm pretty sure he probably has something to say about. I'd be surprised. Gene Siskel was a little bit,
I was literally going to say Gene Siskel would have loved the MCU. He would have accepted it.
Yeah,
he was more pop culture.
Yeah.
The biggest tragedy in the world of movie critics is that Gene Siskel, or depends how you see it, was Gene Siskel never got to see his favorite franchise, Star Wars, have more movies.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, man, I mean, the fact is, regardless of what they say, none of them can accomplish what Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige and Disney has done. This is amazing. Like, this needs to be celebrated. Kevin Feige honestly should get a Lifetime Achievement Award or sometime sooner or later because of what he's been able to do for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even dating back way back to Blade and all this stuff. Because I'm thinking his name. I could be wrong, but he's done movies. He's been a part of movies way back before the Iron Man in the Marvel Studios era. He's been doing it. He just haven't done it right during the time in the 90s. And now when Iron Man came out and they took that risk, it was just full stream ahead. And Jon Favreau as well. Jon Favreau is another one. Like, they took a lot of risk. Look where it's gotten him. Yep. These guys deserve praise for this.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no,
but
Kevin Feige was involved. He was even involved in the original X-Men, Punisher. He was involved in a lot of those movies. Like, it extends past what we know as the MCU. He's been around for a really long time. He was even involved. He was involved in so much. It's just crazy when you see his list of credits.
As far as ranking for me, I think it'll definitely be in the top 10 as for based on significance, based on how it was just put together so well in the again, I say it again, the unenviable task that was brought upon everybody involved to try to pull off it feels like the impossible in a sense, because I mean, just so much was writing on this and they did it brilliantly.
They did.
And I mean, the mid-credit scene just sealed it for everybody. You got to pay homage to T'Challa and Chadwick by never getting another T'Challa, and its place will get a new generation with the same name. Just Marvel, man. DC. I hope James Gunn can learn took everything he learned from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and take it to DC Studios and really do it, because they say they got an 8 to 10 year plan coming and it works. I hope so, because this right here is just, these guys are just, they deserve credit for a lot of things, man. So normally when I do reviews, I do it based on a grade. So I'm going to give you the honors. What would you grade this movie?
And this, as we're talking, and it sounds like we're overly praising this movie, and I thought this movie was really well done, but there were things that kind of made me go, There were things that kind of made me go, right? Mm-hmm. But overall, I think that the good far outweighed the okay. Nothing was bad. Okay. Right. I would have to give this an A-.
Interesting. That's interesting. All right, because I was going to actually give it more of a B+, and that kind of just in that same realm.
Yeah,
A minus, B
I
plus.
was literally gonna say B plus, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna say A minus for the simple fact that I want to praise the movie, but at the same time, there were things, like I said, that probably could have been different, but I want to give this movie the respect that it deserves. That's why I said A.
I think that's running the same game. A minus, B plus is usually from a grades point stat. It's kind of roughly the same thing, but yeah, we're thinking on the same plane. Like, it wasn't like the greatest movie of all time in terms of Marvel movies, but giving what they had to go up against, like if you had to do a test and you just like something happened in your life, but you still did the test anyway and you did very well on that test, you would assume that an A minus, B plus would be in the factor. And I think that's exactly what they did here. Again, shout out to, Ryan Coogler and what was the other writer? And Joe Robert Cole, who did the writing for this. Can I say, take note too, that Ryan Coogler, during the process of all this, went through a lot of hell during this whole thing because he got arrested just for being black.
Yep, exactly.
Exactly. During the process of all this. So, Jesus, for God's sakes, people, let's get it together. These damn cops.
I know.
I'll tell you.
It's crazy everything that he's gone through. And again, I feel like he uses all these experiences to make.
You're right. They just gave him more inspiration to write.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it, right? And
I'm glad that's all they gave him.
Exactly. And here's the thing, like, I saw like circles of people talking about why would Marvel want to give Ryan Coogler something like Secret Wars. This is why. He knows how to tell.
Exactly.
So he went against so many odds, right? I know, like, this movie might not be for everyone, and at the end of the day, I mean, I'll be the first person to say that, right? But what he went through, what he was up against, his task to take.
I will argue to everybody who's listening and watching this. I will argue, and I'm looking at you in the camera. This was up there with Winter Soldier. This gave me Winter Soldier vibes in a lot of ways. The depth of it. It kind of had that really, militant type of feel to it that we saw in Winter Soldier with the Russos and everything. I would argue that it's in that same premise as Winter Soldier and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Again, that UN scene just spoke so much to the world, the same way that in Winter Soldier the entire premise spoke to the world, right? Mm-hmm. And again, amazing.
You just mentioned shit like you combined Falcon and the Winter Soldier combined because that kind of with the focus on Isaiah. What is it? I was about to say, is it Isaiah Washington?
Yes, it is.
Yes, with Isaiah Washington's character, the original, well, not the original Captain America, but one of the Captain Americas during World War II, and with the espionage type of feel of the Winter Soldier, Wakanda Forever kind of captured both of those elements into this, and just the way that they handled and did everything. So, he's more than qualified to do that.
More than
do the movie
to continue doing stuff, right? This movie gave me some Watchmen HBO feel to it.
Oh,
right? Like,
wow.
Like it's
the Regina King series.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Exactly. We can have a whole.
That's a whole nother story.
Like a podcast series about that show.
Oh boy. But I'll say this as we end it, man. Real quick. And Boris, thank you for being on this show and talking about this. This has just been an awesome time. I always have a great time with you, man. Just thank you and the whole entire team over there at Sunday Night's Main Event for just embracing me this entire year. It's just been awesome. Trust me, when I say it's been an honor and a pleasure to be a part of anything that you guys have been involved with, even just a footnote in that this radio show that I've listened to since the Attitude Era.
Yep. It's funny. I literally had this, not to like draw this conversation out too much, but I had this conversation last night / this morning. My friend was like, a lot of people know you. Why? Like, are you like popular or something? I'm like, no. But what Sunday Night's Main Event was, and the reason why this conversation came up was because a listener recognized me, went up to me and said, hi, really cool quick conversation, and then they kind of just let me be. But my friend, she was just like, it's to her, it was just, she was flabbergasted, right? But it was, you know, the wrestling community, and just I find that fandoms in general, you know, they gravitate towards, you know, these outlets, right? Especially something as profound in terms of reach as Sunday Night's Main Event / The Law. The fact that it has national airwaves here in Canada, you know, people are gonna know you. People are gonna you know, listen to you. And for fandoms, like, you know, for the longest time pre-MCU, if you found another comic fan, you gravitated towards them.
Yeah.
If you found a wrestling fan today, you gravitate towards them because you
Absolutely.
have that niche fandom in you know, in common. So that's why like I go out of my way in SNME to include the community, because I understand, like, myself coming from the community to now essentially running the network. I understand how cool it is to be called out, to be included, to help out, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely. Well said. And the last thing I will say, and this is extremely important here, because in the week that we are paying homage to Chadwick Boseman, I cannot say this anymore as a black man and at 45 years old. We can't forget why we lost our king. Why we lost a legend just yesterday, or November 10th, actually, is what they said, that we lost Kevin Conroy. We lost him to cancer. And I say this because we're not getting any younger, especially people in our cultures. We need you to take the responsibility. We don't want to lose any more kings in this world. In the celebration of this week, in remembrance of Chadwick Boseman, I decided to start my progress to get tested for colonoscopy. Just yesterday, I got my results, and I'm apparently negative.
Excellent.
For any counts of any colon cancer. So just an emotional week. I mean, just a whirlwind of a week, like I said before. I mean, we just seeing those results. My doctor, texted me back, and then I seen the results and everything. I think I just posted the results scheduled to post on the Facebook page. Please, people, take this seriously, especially people in both our communities and cultures. Get tested.
Yep.
We don't want to lose any more kings and legends out here to cancer. We don't. Yep. It's very important. And, you know, we want to keep you going. There's so much that you could do in life. There's so much opportunity and things to do in life. I can't imagine not being able to experience opportunities like being with you, Boris, and, you know, getting a chance to do the things that I've been doing all year and for the last few years. And, you know, something like that has occurred. You know, we're not destined for forever, but we're destined to make sure that we make an impact in this world before we go. And we need to make sure that we do it in the most healthy way. So please, I implore every one of you, please get checked for colon cancer or whatever cancer, whatever. Just get checked. Don't be afraid to get checked. You know, find a doctor that is comfortable for you to get checked. You know, even if it's for mental health, find your therapist. I have one. It's fine. But, you know, we don't want to lose any more kings. We don't want to lose any more people that has the opportunity to make an impact in this world in some form or fashion and make a footnote in this world. So please definitely do that. So, Boris, again, thank you so much for being a part of the show, man. You're awesome as always. And let's see what the MCU brings us next, because there's a lot coming.
Yeah, that's perfect way to put it. Yeah, it's again, just thank you for having me. It honestly means a lot that, you know, people want my opinion on stuff. So thank you so much.
So before we go, I'd be remiss if I did not let you plug everything that you're involved in right now. So take the time right now. The floor is yours. Let everybody know where they can find you, even in the States here, where we can listen to TSN Radio's Sunday Night's Main Event.
Oh, man, do you have an hour to spare? That's how busy of a person I am. All right, where do we start? So I do a pop culture geek show. That's called the It Canon Podcast. We are coming back. We've been on a bit of a break. It's coming back with some specials. It's canonpodcast.com. Canon spelled Canon. Canon as in the story canon. That's where we got the name, not the camera. It's canonpodcast.com. And the whole wrestling biz stuff, you can find us at snmeradio.com. And it's a whole network of podcasts at this point and growing. We are adding more shows to the lineup every week, it seems, every month, it seems. But we actually have some really cool stuff. And one of the main things that I'm doing is that I'm embracing the independent wrestling scene. I'm sure you've noticed this. We're really starting to get into the independent wrestling theme.
I think they need to be a lot of focus there. Like, I think that's what really made me become a wrestling fan, is the fact that, like, the strife and the hard road that indie fans, wrestlers go to before they make it to that main stage. You know, I've seen the Bryan Danielsons, the CM Punks when they were in Ring of Honor and all these sorts of things, and to see them go to this road, it inspires me. So absolutely great idea to focus on that.
And being in Toronto, right? Like, it being such a deep rooted in the wrestling scene,
especially
a lot of the biggest wrestlers that you see up there coming or trained in Toronto. Yeah, I think that that's a super important thing to do, and just to give that forum for people, right? Like, for me, it's like SNME has this amazing forum nationwide. I want to share it with people. Right. I want people to get that recognition that they deserve. And it's funny that you say that, because this is the first time I'm even talking about this out loud. And I'll let you know, we are working with a couple indie wrestlers, and we're going to be doing an audio documentary style of the life of a professional wrestler in the independent Ontario scene. That's something that we're working on. It's a project that I have nothing to do with, but I'm super passionate about. And it's going to be a serialized documentary podcast that's very different from what we do today. But I think it's going to be very cool to get that, like you said, where these people start from and the ups and downs that they go through to make it.
Right.
So we're going to have that. So yeah, snmeradio.com. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/snmeradio. Right as of today, hint, hint, we do have a paywall. But for me, the way that I see this paywall, it's more, if you like the content and you want to help us keep the lights turned on, that's where you go.
And I can speak for you. I can speak for you in a minute to say that, like, the community is really good too. Yeah. I really think that's the one thing I enjoy about your Facebook group and everything, is that the community, we can all not disagree on everything, but we don't go all out and try to bite each other's necks to do so. I mean, we'll have a disagreement, but then we'll have fun on another post or something like that.
Exactly.
It really falls on the Canadian, tradition of some really nice guys.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then you can also find, specifically, I have a sports and wrestling podcast that's part of the SNME podcast network, and that's BAM Weekly. That's Boris and Matt Weekly, where we go deep into sports. I'm just a huge sports nerd as well, right? So you can find that at bamsportsentertainment.com, and it's just a fun weekly show where we chat sports, wrestling, entertainment, everything under that umbrella. It's just a lot of fun doing that show as well, because we tend to stay away from WWE and AEW. It's the catch-all show for SNME, but we also chat sports, and it's always fun, because it's funny enough, I've been proven right so many times, especially on my NFL picks. I pick some of those underdog teams as a joke, half joking, and I get it right. So it's always fun. So you can find me at itscanonpodcast.com, bamsportsentertainment.com, and snmeradio.com. And it's just, again, thank you so much for having me. It means so much, again, and always fun just geeking out with someone who has that passion.
Awesome. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this very special episode of Talk Time Live. On behalf of myself and Boris, Roberto, Aguilar, all I gotta say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here. Take care, and Wakanda forever.